Hi guys, it's Megan from Vigilante Vibes, and with the excitement of the Wonder Man series coming at the end of January, I think it's time we talk about him. I saw many people ask about him, curious about who he was in the comics. Well, fellow Marvel fans, I got you covered here. This might be my most in-depth one I've done, so here's hoping it's not too long, who knows. So, Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, first appeared in Avengers number 9 in 1964. Simon Williams was the younger of two sons born to Sanford Williams, an industrialist who founded a hugely successful munitions company called Williams Innovations. Sanford was a strict, no-nonsense kind of father with a sky-high expectations for his kids. And his harsh discipline often crossed the line into abuse. That behavior carried down to Simon's older brother Eric, who started taking out his frustrations on Simon. When Eric turned down his father's offer to work in the family business, Simon, the quieter, more book-loving one, stepped up instead. So when Sanford died, Simon ended up inheriting full control of Williams Innovation at just 20 years old. Unfortunately, Simon wasn't exactly ready for the responsibility, and under his leadership, the company started losing ground to fast-rising competitors like Stark Industries. Maybe you've heard of him. Well, them, the company, and Stark. Desperate to save his father's legacy, Simon turned to Eric for help. Eric suggested something pretty reckless, embezzling money from the company to invest in some shady but profitable Magia-backed ventures. Simon, under pressure and running out of options, actually did it. It didn't take long for the board of directors to uncover what he'd done, and Simon was put on trial for embezzlement and for his connection to organized crime. He was found guilty and facing prison when Amora the Enchantress stepped in out of nowhere. She paid his bail and magically manipulated the authorities into letting him go. It turned out Baron Zemo had been following Simon's case in the papers and was intrigued by Simon's public resentment toward Tony Stark. Believing Stark was Iron Man's boss, when in fact, Stark was Iron Man, Zemo sent the Enchantress to recruit Simon to join the Masters of Evil. Still reeling from everything that happened, Simon went with her to Zemo's base in South America, where he agreed to be a test subject for Zemo's new ionic ray process. After a grueling round of chemical and radiation treatments, Simon emerged with superhuman strength and durability. Zemo outfitted him in a costume, dubbed him Wonder Man, and told him he'd be key to defeating the Avengers. To keep Simon in line, Zemo lied and said the procedure had altered his metabolism. Without a special antidote, he'd die within a week. Terrified, Wonder Man agreed to play along. In a staged fight with the Masters of Evil, he pretended to side with the Avengers and quickly earned their trust. When he confessed that he was dying, the Avengers did everything they could to cure him, but could not find a solution. Eventually, Simon led the team into what turned out to be an ambush by the Masters of Evil, but partway through, he had a change of heart. He couldn't bring himself to betray the Avengers after how kind they'd been to him. Giving up Zemo's antidote, Simon sacrificed himself, dying from the side effects of the ionic treatment. His last words were that he was glad his final act had been a noble one. The Avengers thought Simon was dead and brought his body back to the US for a burial. But in reality, he'd fallen into a deep coma caused by unstable energy inside him. His brother Eric, now calling himself the Grim Reaper, stole Simon's body with plans to use it to manipulate the Vision, whose synthetic brain had been based on Simon's own mind patterns. Eric tried to convince the Vision to betray the Avengers by promising to transfer his mind into Simon's body. But when that failed, he even tried to offer him Captain America's body instead. Eric escaped with Simon's body and took it to New Orleans, hoping voodoo priests could bring his brother back. The cult leader, Black Talon, succeeded, but only in creating a mindless zombie version of Wonder Man. Eric sent his reanimated Simon to attack the Vision, but the plan didn't work out, and the Avengers followed the trail back to New Orleans. After exposure to the living laser's powers and other energy surges, Simon gradually came out of his zombie-like state, regaining consciousness and realizing he was fully alive again. His body had changed, though. It was no longer made of normal human tissue, but of superhuman energy-based substance fueled by ionic energy. Simon had a rough time adjusting to being alive again and struggled with the trauma of his death. He stayed at Avengers Mansion for a while, helping the team out when he could, but he was often paralyzed by the fear of dying again. Eventually, during a major battle with the cosmic being Korvac, he overcame his fear long enough to reach his full potential as a hero. Even after that, though, he occasionally struggled with panic and self-doubt, which is pretty human. Over time, Simon was officially reinstated as an Avenger, became close friends with the Beast. He even confronted the Magia again when he fought Madame Mask and the Dreadnought to reclaim his old factory. When the Grim Reaper found out Simon was alive, he returned to the Avengers Mansion and forced the team into a mock trial to prove that this Wonder Man was really his brother. When Simon refused to let him kill the Vision, Eric went on a rampage, and Simon had to fight him. The Avengers managed to subdue the Reaper and have him committed to a mental institution, but he eventually escaped and convinced once again that neither Simon nor the Vision was truly his brother. But it's actually really funny to think that the Grim Reaper is just in a mental institution. Maybe it's not funny to everyone. I think it's funny. Living at the Avengers Mansion, Simon decided he didn't want to mooch off the team financially. Not wanting to return to business, he tried acting, reasoning that he'd been acting like a hero for years anyways, which is fair. After working as a strongman on a children's show and a security consultant at Cordco, neither of which lasted long, he moved to Los Angeles where he found success as a stuntman, eventually as an actor. When Hawkeye formed the West Coast Avengers, Simon joined him, despite some doubts about measuring up to the rest. He proved himself time and time again, defeating powerful foes like Graviton, Ultron, even his brother the Grim Reaper, who is a problem, clearly. Feeling stronger and more confident, Simon publicly admitted his past embezzlement, asking for forgiveness. The public respected his honesty, and for the first time, Simon truly felt free of his past. He also developed very complicated feelings for the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, especially after the Vision, whose mind was based on his own, was dismantled and rebuilt without emotions. When Wanda asked Simon to help restore Vision's mind by donating his brain patterns again, Simon refused, both out of guilt and because of his feelings for her. The situation strained things between them, though Simon later apologized. Simon eventually left the West Coast Avengers to focus on acting and his personal life. He dated a screenwriter named Alex Flores and continued navigating life in Hollywood. His life took an even darker turn when he became involved in Operation Galactic Storm, an intergalactic conflict between the Kree and the Shi'ar. During this war, Simon witnessed the detonation of the Negabomb, which wiped out nearly the entire Kree race. Even though he wasn't directly responsible, the event haunted him deeply and led to ongoing psychological trauma. Later, while working with ForceWorks, a successor to the West Coast Avengers, Simon was killed by Kree warriors seeking revenge for the genocide. His body was destroyed in an ionic explosion that turned the Los Angeles skies pink. Eventually, Wanda used her chaos magic to resurrect him, and the two briefly became a couple. Their relationship ended amicably when they realized they were better off as friends. Feeling that he didn't deserve another chance at life, Simon created a nonprofit organization called Second Chances, using his fame and fortune to help people rebuild their lives. When the Superhuman Registration Act was passed, Simon registered and became a SHIELD agent, though he hated the politics of it. He joined the Mighty Avengers alongside Miss Marvel, whom he had a relationship with, Iron Man, and others. Together, they fought threats like Ultron, Doctor Doom, the Hulk's Warbound, and the Skrulls during their invasion. I should also mention, this was Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, not Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Nothing weird going on here. After Norman Osborn took over national security, Simon became disillusioned with the heroism, publicly declaring that the Avengers had caused more harm than good. He was later arrested as a part of the group called the Lethal Legion. When Steve Rogers reassembled the Avengers after the siege event, Simon refused to rejoin, even attacking the team at one point. Tony Stark later revealed that Simon's body was unstable and leaking ionic energy, suggesting his erratic behavior wasn't entirely his fault. Simon eventually put together his own anti-Avengers team, the Revengers, believing the Avengers needed to be stopped. After a series of battles, he was captured and imprisoned. He later redeemed himself by helping the Avengers rescue the Wasp and joined the Avengers Unity Squad, a team dedicated to uniting humans and mutants. During a mission against the Apocalypse Twins, Rogue accidentally absorbed Simon's essence and powers, keeping his consciousness inside her mind until she eventually released him. In later adventures, Wonder Man joined groups like the Avengers Emergency Response Squad, helping heroes like Photon, She-Hulk, and Hercules during global crises. He maintained his pacifist ideals, but still stepped in when necessary, like when he drank a vat of toxic serpent venom to neutralize it without harm. Unhinged things like that. Even in quieter moments, Simon stayed involved with the superhero community, working alongside friends like Beast and She-Hulk, and lending his strength when the world needed them. Through it all, Simon Williams, Wonder Man, remained a complicated but ultimately hopeful figure. Someone who fell, rose again, kept trying to live up to the name Avenger. So, you have his backstory, but what is his powers? Well, there's a laundry list of them, so hang tight while we discuss all of them. Ionic energy form. Wonder Man's body isn't exactly human anymore. His tissues and bones were supercharged and partly replaced during the ionic ray experiment that gave him his powers, which involved PIM particle-charged ions. Even though he often says he's made of ionic energy, it's a bit unclear these days whether his outer form is actually made of energy or still has some kind of flesh-like substance. At one point, when everyone in New York got turned into symbiotes, Simon explained that he wasn't affected because he's basically a being of pure ions, not flesh and blood. Superhuman strength. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Wonder Man's strength is absolutely off the charts. He can lift well over 100 tons, and no one's really sure what his upper limit is. He's been compared to powerhouses like Thor, the Hulk, Hercules, even the Sentry. Some people have called him one of the strongest human beings on Earth, and even the most powerful member of the Avengers at different points. He's gone toe-to-toe with Thor multiple times, and even knocked him down on occasion. Though, to be fair, both Thor and Sentry usually hold back. But Spider-Man once joked that Simon belongs to the same strength class as the Hulk, Thor, and Hercules, just a notch below them, but still way above Iron Man even at full power. So, if Spider-Man says that, I believe it. Superhuman leaping. Simon's leg strength lets him jump ridiculous distances, so there's that. Superhuman speed. He's very fast. Superhuman stamina. Thanks to his ionic physiology, Simon doesn't tire out, ever. So, he just keeps going. He's the Energizer Bunny. Invulnerability. Simon's body is made of ionized organic matter instead of normal flesh. I've said the word flesh way too many times. Which makes him incredibly tough. He can shrug off bullets, explosions, massive impacts, and even atmospheric re-entry without getting hurt. The next one, superhuman agility and reflexes. For a guy with so much muscle, Simon moves with the agility, balance, and reflexes of a top-level athlete. Enhanced senses. His senses are enhanced. Flight. He can fly. Power fluctuations. Simon's power and strength levels can fluctuate depending on his emotional state. When he's mentally off balance or under stress, his abilities can either spike higher than normal or weaken. Resurrection empowerment. Every time Simon dies and comes back, his ionic energy restructures itself stronger than before. So each resurrection leaves him more powerful than the last, which is just bananas. Immortality, because he's powered entirely by ionic energy. He's not flesh and bones like the rest of us. He doesn't age or get sick. He's just vibing. Self-resurrection, we've gone over this. He can, even if his body's completely destroyed or dispersed, he eventually reforms over time. Self-sustenance. Simon doesn't need food, sleep, water, or even air. So he can just survive. Just crazy. Regeneration. His ionic body can heal itself from basically anything. Gunshot wounds, torn off limbs, all that stuff. Energy manipulation. Before his death at the hands of the Kree, Simon learned to release bursts of raw ionic energy through his body with devastating force. He doesn't use the ability as often now, but it's still there. Energy constructs. Simon can shape his internal energy into solid, tangible forms. So he can make like force fields or energy bubbles, all that. Electromagnetic manipulation. Under training from the Wasp and the Beast, Simon learned that he can detect, absorb, and manipulate electromagnetic fields and other types of energy in the environment using his ionic energy as a conduit. There's more. I'm so sorry. I'll just go through them. Ionic blasts, ionic beams, flame projection, shape shifting, size alteration, power recycling, teleportation. So he is obviously super, super overpowered. And personally, I don't think the MCU knows how to handle a super overpowered character. I mean, they handled Wiccan, but we didn't get that full effect. We didn't have to see him take down the world. Like Franklin Richards, I'm very nervous for them to use. But Wonder Man is as overpowered as it comes, and it's a cool character. I'm excited to see his series. So, as usual, I have comics for you to check out to get to know Simon, aka Wonder Man, even better. So he actually has his own solos. You can check out Wonder Man solo with volumes 1, 2, and 3. It's fun. It's good. Avengers Volume 1, number 150 to 200. He's in there a lot. Avengers Volume 3, when he returns from the dead and stays on the Avengers team. And most currently, you can check him out in the Long Shots comics in the X-Men Age of Revelation event going on currently. He's in there with... oh, I forgot her name. Oops. Jessica Jones' sister, if someone can just help me out with that. I forgot her name completely. But yes, so that is Wonder Man. I hope you learned something. Be sure to like and subscribe so when the series comes out, you can watch me review the show. And also, I have all these character breakdowns. Right now, I'm going really heavy into the X-Men, but I'm going to start sprinkling in other ones in there because it's like, there's just so many characters in the Marvel Universe that I feel are very underrated and need more attention. So with that being said, have a marvelous day.